Another game, another win in this marvellous year. And this marvellous team may have an even more than marvellous signature goal to add to the books. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Why can I hear an advert playing? Oh dear, that's on the other screen. What an inauspicious start to the podcast. I was going to start off all hot, Craig. I'm going to make a statement and I want everyone to listen because I'm very balanced normally, but I'm going to go talk sport here. I'm going to go all in. Now, Craig, a lot of people are going to get upset by my statement and immediately just disagree with it without thinking about it. But I need you to think about this for 5 minutes. Yesterday, Wes Burns scored the greatest goal Ipswich Town have ever scored. Process that in your head. Think about the fact that football moves on and things that were done in the past weren't necessarily done now. Remove the context and just look at the goal, which would still be goal of the season if it was a ball booted down the line and he smashed it in the top corner. Tell me when I'm lying. Tell me a better goal Ipswich Town have ever scored than the one they scored yesterday, Craig.
You want me to do that now? Yeah, okay.
I do, yeah. I've made my statement. My statement is finished.
I'm kind of with you on that. As Ben has said in the chat, fact. It was, yeah.
Debate ended.
End of conversation, end of debate. Welcome and good night for the Blue Monday. Yeah, it's just brilliant. We'll talk about it in a bit detail later, but it's been everywhere. Everyone's seen it. It's been retweeted around the world. As you say, had it just been a punt down the right channel and he'd cut inside and killed him with the outside of his foot from the edge of the box, it'd have been equally good, but the build-up as well.
Joe, can you, I mean, in my head, I go to Marcus Stewart's second goal against Bolton. I go to Arnold Muren's goal. Was it Tyson or Muren who scored the dribbly one against Norwich and then curled it in the top corner? I don't. I mean, Burst Salinas won a couple of seasons ago. Someone mentioned that one, but Joe, can you name me a better one?
Well, yeah, it's difficult to find a better one, isn't it? It was just that good. It was everything about the goal from where it started, just us doing what we do and playing it out, and a couple of long pings. I think the only thing that annoys me about the goal is that it counts as an assist for Leif Davis to push him up the rankings.
I tweeted that yesterday.
Just a little ball across to Burns, isn't it? But no, it was fantastic. And like I say, I just stood there, and when we scored, it was just like my arms up, like, and I just turned around, and the guy in front of me turned around, and we just both said, "What a goal!" It was just like exactly the same thing. No one could believe it. The only person who didn't enjoy it was my dad, who was on his way back from the toilet at the time. but so he missed it. But like John Walk obviously sits near me, and he saw it, and as soon as it went in, he like ran inside so he could watch the replay again, and sort of like all the staff he was grabbing, he was like, "Come and look at this goal," sort of thing. It was just, yeah, unbelievable.
Well, we're live on the Blue Monday podcast. Welcome. Get involved in the chat. Tweet us. I'm putting it out there. Name me a better goal that our wonderful football club has ever scored, because we'll get into the detail and the minutiae of the move and the goal. I think it's important that we talk about that, because you will not see a goal like that very, very regular. Well, who knows from this blooming team? I tell you, as I welcome to the.
Sorry, with the goal going viral as well, like Chris Rand put in the group yesterday that basically our goals are normally viewed about 25,000 times. The first goal, as an example, was viewed 50,000 times. This one is now up to 4 million views. So just because every account is shared, all your big football accounts, all these foreign football accounts are sharing and spreading it around there. Yeah, so 4 million views of that goal now on the socials.
Which is all adding fuel to my statement. Thank you, everybody who's joined us live on the Blue Monday podcast. You can do that each and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Get involved in the debate. If you are here live right now, do hit the live button. If you're listening after the Fact on podcast, we still appreciate you guys. Make sure you give us a 5-star review and all of that good stuff. Just quickly, I suppose we've got to deal with it, Craig, before we get to the Coventry game. FA Cup draw today.
Yeah. Well, it might actually pique a bit of interest in tomorrow's game on the telly now as well, mightn't it? Just to see who we could potentially get. Obviously, Ramsgate will have echoes of Bracknell from
Winners.
last year if we if we see them beat AFC Wimbledon. But if Wimbledon win, then we get to go back and get manhandled by the special ops stewards.
They're actually all out in Ukraine at the moment. Those guys.
Yeah.
They were sort
Yeah,
of
they're going to
kitting
come
up for
back
the war,
especially
weren't they?
to kick women and children in the away end.
What do you think of the draw, Joe?
Yes, I guess you just want a winnable tie, don't you? Where we know we're going to make 11 changes for this game, and so you want a game where you can probably win that one and win the fourth round, and then that's probably enough. Win that and get into the fourth round and maybe go out at that point. That's probably enough cup games there. It sort of keeps you in the flow, doesn't it? There, so we'll see from there. They're the lowest ranked team in it, aren't they? Still at the moment, so we'll see if they're still in it after tomorrow.
That's probably the games where they stop using keeping the weekends free as well, isn't it, Joe? The fourth round after the
that's the last one, 27th of January, I think.
Yeah, and we have kind of outlined that when you look at the schedule as, I mean, we're in the midst of the Hateful Eight now, but that's the kind of sort of free week at the start of January. So it was always going to look like that. However, and whoever you got drawn against. Let's talk about Ipswich Town versus Coventry. Let's just do a little bit of setup though, Craig, first, because I mentioned the Hateful Eight. We're 3 games into it now, and we're kind of looking at it of can you hold some kind of gap? Can you put a reasonably decent points total on that you can be kind of proud of? And look, whatever Leeds do, whatever Southampton do is what they do. You look after ourselves and then go again in the new year. Bad start at West Brom, but you end the first week with 6 points. So we're at the 2 points per game, which Leeds have just reached, and Southampton can with a win in round 20. And that now condenses the Hateful Eight to the Furious 5 now, or the horrible 3-game week coming up. I feel a lot more relaxed now because if you scored 3 points or fewer in this first week, the pressure would be way above what it is now, Craig.
Yeah, that's right. And so we've moved on to Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, have we? So we've as you guys said last Sunday after the West Brom, not only the result but also the performance, that if we do get to the end of this week having won the 2 home games, then it will still be a good week. And it has transpired that it still has been a good week. And if you can, during the course of all of these games, keep anything approaching a 2-point per game average, then getting into the new year, through the Christmas period, through the Leicester game, through the QPR game, with that still intact, you'd take that right now, wouldn't you? So, all things being equal, I think it's, as you say, it's been on the back of a very, very good week. Certainly on the back of the performance to turn that round into 2 very solid home wins. Certainly can't ask for more, and it gives us a week off, doesn't it, to rest and recuperate, ready for the big slog up to January.
Joe, we've been complaining about these early goals, and they're still blooming happening in the last 2 games. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, and there was all the sort of talk after the West Brom game last week. I think there was a big overreaction to that. It was just a good side, did a job on us, and we moved on. And then we started so well against Millwall with the sort of 2 goals in the first 12 minutes. And then again, another early goal yesterday, which sort of just settles the crowd down as well. Because I think there's sort of so much pressure on the team at the moment. It feels like from the fan base, everyone's so sort of stressed out by it, aren't they, at the moment, because we're doing so well, and just that goal just settles things down. We started like a train yesterday, didn't we, as well? So it really, that early goal came, but we'd had a couple of chances before that, and we were looking really, really at it.
Let's just wind back 1 sec and actually have a look at this then. So Ipswich v Coventry, and what we mustn't forget about this is Coventry, Craig, were in the Championship playoff final and got to the end of the penalty shootout and lost on sudden death last year, and have retooled. Okay, they're in transition, but they were on for a 9-point week and had kept clean sheets in their first 2 games of the week. So without sounding like good old Mick McCarthy, there is a bit of they're no mugs. And I still have it in my head there'll be some kind of trend up towards top 12, at least top 10, come what may, during this season. I got my team wrong again on Fan Hub, though, Craig. I had Brandon Williams at right back, and it was Harry Clark again. But otherwise, just as we imagined it probably would be, Craig, and with the week's gap now to the Middlesbrough game, Fladkey, Davis Burgess, Wolfenden, Clark, obviously, Tuan Zabi steps out, Morsi Luongo, Broadhead, Chaplin, Burns, and Hurst. Is it as simple now as just put the best team on the pitch as often as you can and deal with the 3 game weeks with whatever comes up?
Yeah, very possibly. And as you say, it's probably a toss of the coin, maybe slightly weighted towards Williams over Clark. But other than that, that's our strongest 11. Strongest 11 from League One that's still doing a job in the Championship. And as the guy said in the pre-match, and as you sort of alluded to there, the Coventry team, you can't knock them for not reinvesting the cash that they got in. Throughout the team, the central defenders I thought looked very tidy. Not entirely sure you get 8 million quid's worth of value out of their striker, Haji Wright, but just goes to show what sort of a bargain George Hurst currently looking. But we can chat about that a little bit later on. So no, I was quite impressed with Coventry. Actually, I could certainly see them pushing up through the leagues, pushing up the league, because I thought they put a decent performance in yesterday. As the guy said again on pre-match, they probably do lack a little bit up front in terms of their goal scoring, but I thought at the back and certainly through the midfield, I thought they were pretty impressive, to be fair.
So this Coventry side, then, lots of familiar faces. A lot of them have played for Barnsley by the look of it as well. Joe Collins in goal, Van Evik and Bidwell we've come up against a million times. We came up against Kitching and Thomas. In fact, someone correct me in the chat, they might have been both playing possibly in the Barnsley game last season. We're both on loan there, if I'm not misremembering that. Chief, Eccles, Ayari. Good to see O'Hare back because he's a real good creative force and he's had horrible time out with injuries. Allen and Haji Wright. I'll mention Ben Brereton Diaz because he went for 6 million and was rubbish for about 2 years and then just got brilliant. So there's hope for Haji Wright yet. But again, Joe, in isolation, a lot of those players, you think, okay, you take a few of them, wouldn't you, when you take the pattern of play out of it?
Yeah, they're a good side, and they're a good side last year, and they seem to have settled on this 4 at the back system now, which has sort of turned their form around. But when you look at sort of all the underlying metrics of the season, they're probably the team in the most false position in the league. Sort of it was like them at the bottom who were good and Preston at the top who were bad, and they're sort of starting to swap over at the moment, aren't they? But no, 100%. I thought Ben Sheaf was good in the midfield. He's always a sort of very important player for them, and he just sort of gets on the ball, moves it, and he was able to sort of dictate the tempo of the game, but not many midfielders can do that against us. He was able to sort of dictate the pace and sort of slow it down and speed it up when they had their spells when they were on top of the game.
Yeah, sorry, Ben. Just as you were talking about the players in their time, I thought that during the match. Actually, I thought you could easily swap a vast majority. Not necessarily swap, but both their set of players could easily work in our formation and vice versa. There were similar sort of setups, similar styles of play, and similar levels of players. Really,
I think we've had it in the Championship before, guys, with Wendia, Pookie, Wilson, Mitrovic, Billing, Solanke. When you get one really good creative player and one really good attacker like they had with Hamer and Gyökeres, sometimes that can just really destroy the league, can't it? And obviously without both of those. But let's stay with you then, Craig, and another early goal. Thank you very much. And where are we on the Broadhead scale here? Because if David Diamond is right that he's not quite himself, it's a goal and an assist in the last 2 games at least. We won't mention the one-on-one he's going to miss in about 10 minutes. But go ahead, Craig. Opening goal for George Hurst.
Yeah, well, I was going to talk about Broadhead a little bit actually, because I thought he started off very, very well, probably up until the one-on-one that he just he dragged wide, and then he tended to sort of get a bit quieter and tail off a little bit. So I'm sort of still in the David Diamond camp really when it comes to Broadhead. But yeah, he won the ball about 10 yards in our half with a good challenge, and then burst forward in about the halfway line, and then as he's just about to release the pass, Hurst finds gap between their two central defenders, and he's off. and it's a perfectly timed pass, a perfectly timed run. And once it gets into a foot race, that first touch from George Hurst just makes the goal, doesn't it? That it's just so clever and strong to get that left foot touch across the defender. Kitchen can't then do anything about it. He's out the game. Through on goal. And if you watch the replay, he's bearing on a goal. He gets his head up, gets his bearings, and then gets his head down to slide it in past Collins. So yeah, it's a fantastic goal. And as McKenna said in the post-match interview, you'll do well at this level to find a 6'3" striker who's got that level of pace about him. I think and I was talking to some mates last night. We were out. We're just saying, this for £1.5 million, we've just landed on something here, haven't we, in terms of Hurst, and also how we can, from now to the end of the season, A, look after him, and B, get some sort of replacement to help him out, because we are currently at the moment using him a lot more than we were at the beginning of the season. He was coming off maybe 60 minutes. Now we're pushing up, it's 89, 90 minutes the other game, and it's getting more and more minutes per game, and we probably don't want to do that, because, as I say, we're so reliant on him and the way that he presses from the front, and is now hopefully adding a few goals to it. I just think he's absolutely invaluable to this team. As I say, fantastic goal.
Did you take on that goal, Joe?
Yeah, similar to what Craig said. Just that first touch is a key, but we know with Broadhead, if you give him time and space to pick a through ball, he is going to pick it perfectly, and the weight of the pass, the execution of it was just perfect. And Hurst takes a goal really well. The keeper's position is a bit funny. He's a bit over to the sort of the right hand side of the goal and leaves a big chunk of it open. And sort of to echo all what Craig said about the importance of George Hurst, he's actually now our leader in goal contributions this season, where there's been talk that he's maybe not contributing enough with goals, but I don't think that's his role. I think it's more for Broadhead and Chaplin, but he's now got 5 goals and 5 assists this season, so he's on the 10, where I think Broadhead, Chaplin and Davis are all on 9 goal contributions in the league. So no, just fantastic. And he's becoming such a good player, and it looks a snip at £1.5 million when you saw what was on the other side with Hadji Wright and Ellis Sims and what those players cost. But yeah, fantastic.
Do you want to start taking us through to the big moment, Joe? How does the rest of the half? Does anybody really care? Do you just want us to talk about the West Burns goal? But no, we'll be professional. How does the rest of the half kind of pan out up to the incredible second goal? Yeah,
I thought sort of for about the first 25 minutes, I thought we were sort of pretty on top of the game, as on top as we've been on sort of any game. But from that point on, and like Broadhead has that, how he misses that one where he's through on goal and he just drags it wide when it looked so easy to score. But after that happened, I thought Coventry sort of started to get a bit of a foothold in the game, and were sort of playing pretty well in the sort of build up to it. Sort of had a sort of 10-15 minute spell there where they were getting on top without really creating a huge amount, it has to be said. They had the shot from Bidwell, which Ladke did well to save, but it was a fairly regulation save. And then, like I say, we just kept going, didn't we? We kept going and kept passing out from the back, and that leads into that second goal where the ball, as it has done for a lot of our goals this season, starts at Václav Hladký's feet in his stunning pink kit, as modelled behind me there. But just the pass, and Wolfenden, Clark, they're all taking the ball under a lot of pressure, aren't they? And it's there. And for the first time we do it, Chaplin just hammers that ball out to the left to Davis, doesn't it? He just sits in there, and he loves to drop into that little pocket of space, sort of between sort of behind Wes Burns and in front of Harry Clark. And often he's looking to sort of bend the ball over the sort of left back to release Wes Burns, but this time he goes totally the other way to the other side of the pitch to Leif Davies, who's in acres of space, dribbles up the pitch, cuts inside, and then knocks the ball over to Burns. And well, someone else could maybe do it justice from there. What is it? The Travella, they call it apparently. But it reminded me of Quaresma, the Portuguese player, loved a shot like that. But yeah, just cuts inside. And from where I was, I couldn't tell if it was going in, and it just dropped right. Like if you'd have picked the ball up and placed it, you couldn't have put it more in the top corner than where it was. It was unsavable. If 2 goalkeepers, any cliche you can think of as to what that is, but an unbelievable goal. But there was good contributions all in that, because when Connor Chaplin plays the ball, him and Harry Clark are in the right back spot. By the time it comes up, Connor Chaplin's in the box. Harry Clark does the lung busting run and uses that real power to sort of take the fullback away to open up the space for Wes Burns to go inside. And that's what you notice from this team. When you see them, they all work so hard off the ball. They all are creating angles, and it's it might look easy. It might look like we've always got a pass on, and there's always a pass on because everyone's working so hard. Everyone knows what to do, that they do keep these simple options on, and we must be murder to play against the other team when we're in the mood like that.
Craig, McKenna mentioned it in his post-match, that this idea that all seems to have been drilled into them, that they're going to move the ball and wait for the space to become obvious. And he mentioned how the pace accelerated when Chaplin found the space and played the quick pass. And we've just seen it so many times now where it's slow, quick, go. Have you ever seen a better goal than that at Portman Road, Craig?
No. We can put to bed all our Leighton Baines comments. And
it's done, isn't it?
Yeah. It's done now. Yeah, that's right. But as Joe says about the build-up play, and what is integral, when I was watching it a lot yesterday, is Sam Morsey. I know we all know that he knits everything together, but he's just so clever when the ball is in those positions, particularly in that right back, right central defender positions, because he's the option for Wolfenden, for example. He will then pass it out to Clark. He will then sprint over and help Clark out to take the ball. Not necessarily in this move, but all the time during the match, he's there offering them both the option and then also driving us forward. And I think that little triangle, if you like, in that bottom right-hand corner, by virtue of us playing it down there for a little while, the play then drifts over that side, and the Coventry players drift over that side. And Chaplin knows then that Davis is in acres and acres of space on the other side.
They're coached to do that. They're coached to. You see them doing the drills, all moving across together. So they're not doing a hell of a lot wrong, are they? In the first instance, the Coventry players.
No, and even when they're defending against Burns, they're not doing an awful lot wrong, are they? They're showing him inside, which is exactly what...
guy follows Clark down the line. They show him. Yeah, you're totally right. That makes it an even better goal that the defending's not bad at all.
No, absolutely right, and hence why the chance itself is 0.03 XG.
Is that what it is? Is it?
Yeah. And as Joe says, you pick it up and place it. It just feathers the side netting as it goes in as well, doesn't it? It's just remarkable. A remarkable goal.
For all those people that get upset about XG, most of those shots are probably taken not with the outside of the right foot facing horizontally as well. But yeah, let's not get into that debate. And yeah, look, we can talk about it. It's a nice conversation to have. Doesn't need to be an emotional, whiny conversation. I genuinely, I'm not doing it for hyperbole, think you can argue that's the best Ipswich Town goal. I've thought about it a lot since yesterday. I'm sure a lot of us have spent a lot of time thinking about that goal because it was just so damn good. And I mean, Joe, just for a pause for thought. You imagine us doing that 5 years ago.
Yeah, you might have had the end part of it, just a bit of like a great finish, but you'd never have had that build up like that. And just like you say, you're against a good, well organised side who are doing everything right, and you're just passing them off the park and moving it around. But we're scoring brilliant goals every game at the moment, aren't we? And even like I say, in the midweek game, it's sort of 3 fantastic, but all different goals. And it's we don't score bad goals at the moment, do we? That because we play such nice football, such easy on the eye football, they are just great to watch, because when the goal is scored is generally when it's all clicked in that run, and that's just fantastic. And like I said, the goal of the season competition this year is going to be, we've probably seen its winner, but there's going to be a hell of a 10 up for it, isn't it?
It's going to be a beautiful thing. Triple substitution from Mark Robbins at half-time. Godden, Sakamoto and Latabodier in. Craig, what was the pattern in the second half? I'm feeling a little bit, from some of the comments I'm reading in the chat, a little bit damned if we do, damned if we don't with this, because McKenna's now starting to talk about specific reactions to who you're playing, and you can't do this against Coventry, and we do this, that will play to their strengths, etc. There's been a lot of complaining about games ending tighter than they need to. So talk to me about the approach in the second half, because McKenna kind of doubled down on that having been the right thing to do, to just sort of come within ourselves a little bit.
Take the sting out of the game, sort of thing. And I presume it was intentional, but we're just much more pedestrian in the second half than we were in the first, by virtue of us being 2-0 up, I would hope. Because we had a lot of the ball, didn't we, Joe? Our central defenders had a lot of the ball. Wolfenden had an awful lot of the ball, certainly the first quarter of an hour, 20 minutes of the second half. And Coventry were just set up. They were just set up waiting for us. And there was a lot of cat and mouse between Hladky and Godden in terms of who's going to blink first, who's going to jump that press and trigger us out. And they didn't really do that, to be honest. They were just sitting there waiting for us. And as a result, I say Hlag had a lot of the ball. Wolfenden had a lot of the ball. They were going man for man all over the pitch, so everyone was marked. There wasn't an awful lot of free space, and it was just a bit of stalemate for a good 15, 20 minutes of the second half, and it never really got going. And I think that may have contributed towards the crowd a little bit quiet as well. Certainly the home fans, the away fans were pretty loud all game. But I think and obviously coming out of it with a 2-1 win, you can look at it in hindsight, and not suggesting McKenna's doing that, but you can say, it was all part of the game plan. We're looking just to manage the game, rest some legs relatively, and see the game out, which I suppose we did, up until the point whereby Clark dangles a leg and takes over your man Sakamoto in the box.
Joe, we need to respect the subjectivity, so I don't want to hear any definite this or definite that or the other. I agree with Craig about what's the cliche? Inviting the referee to make a decision. And I know we shouldn't ever judge a decision by what would a football fan say about it, because they all just want every grey decision to go for the team they support, don't they? But I dare say if that had been the other end, there'd have been lots of crying for a penalty to be given for us. But what was your take on the penalty and the subsequent miss?
I think it was just a frustrating one because they weren't really going anywhere. They were struggling to get anywhere and actually create good chances against us. And you were thinking it was going to be a mistake that caused one, and it was really. But the ball sort of was bouncing about there, and I've only watched it back once. Yeah, he catches him. Yeah, the Sakamoto goes down very.
It's a bad dive, isn't it?
Yeah, it goes down very theatrically.
We had the same conversation about the Plymouth thing, Joe. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it goes down theatrically, but it's one of those ones. If you had VAR looking at it, there's no way it's getting overturned because there is contact, and you can't do that in the box. You've got to be cleverer than that when you're making a challenge like that. So yeah, it is a penalty. But when you see sort of like Hladky was trying to make himself big on the line, and it's one of those ones where he goes the right way, but he's nowhere near it. But if that penalty is 3 inches lower, it's a brilliant penalty. But it's not. So it hits the bar, it bounces out, and really that was probably the only way they looked like they were going to score from stuff like that at the time. So yeah, I was quite relieved. Obviously, very relieved at that point. It's a totally different game, and it's 2-1 there with
25 minutes.
Yeah, was it that early? Yeah, 25
well,
minutes.
70-71, wasn't it? But including injury time.
Yeah, no, it was just an annoying one to give away, but yeah, a penalty, and I'm sure Clark will learn from that.
Harness and Hutchison, by the way, had come in previous to this for Broadhead and Burns. Maybe we criticise Kieran McKenna. Maybe we were saying that the quadruple substitution could possibly have been 2 double substitutions in midweek, with the benefit again of hindsight. And Brandon Williams and Jack Taylor finished the game. Where I am, sorry, okay, Jackson does as well. Where I am a little bit more partisan is, was there a foul in the Coventry goal? Craig, just a bit overly physical in terms of the challenge on Williams.
I think being pushed in the back, so you've faced the ball into the net, I think can be a foul, given as a foul. Yeah, I didn't think it was at the time. Just looking, my seat up in the Pioneer, looking near the tunnel, looking across the goal line, I thought it was perfectly fair. But looking at it on the replay, it just looks like Sims just nudges Williams in the back, and as a result, he's just poor old guy's faced it into the net. But Williams had a funny old 15 minutes when he come on. He went flying into a tackle that he didn't need to make in the 89th, 90th minute to pick up a booking, and therefore get suspended for the Middlesbrough game. And then poor old guy's given away an own goal 5 minutes later. So yeah, not the greatest 15 minutes from him. And I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but Luongo as well. I think it's going to be a big miss, because I thought this week, the 2 home games, I thought he's been absolutely brilliant. Both him and Morsey, obviously, but he may well have even shaded Morsey yesterday in terms of his contribution. He looks back to his sharp best, which is good news for Australia.
What's your take on the goal, again respecting the subjectivity, Joe?
Yeah, it's frustrating because we were sort of well over the 5 minutes at this point, and in the build-up, the ref sort of looks at his watch 3 times, and it's almost like he's just waiting for the right time to find to blow the whistle, and doesn't, and the ball comes in, and well, yeah, Sims, there's no way he's getting the ball from where he is. He's totally behind Williams. Williams' positioning is good, and he just gets in the back. I guess there's maybe an argument to say he could be a little bit stronger with it, but he does what he needs to do by getting in front of it, and it's just frustrating. But because it was literally the penultimate kick of the game, as soon as we took the kick off, the game ended. I guess you don't worry about it really; you just move on. But Hadke looked furious not to have his clean sheet at the end, which is understandable because they're big things for him, aren't they? And it's just another goal conceded, which he doesn't want on his record, and it shouldn't be on there. It was a foul.
I'm sure he get a lovely bonus as well, which in the 95th minute or whatever it was. Isn't helpful, but hey, let's have a look at the numbers. 55-45 in terms of the percentage of the possession in Ipswich favour. 1.72, 1.38 on the XG. Always remember when there's a penalty involved, though, that's 0.77 into the bargain. 15 shots to 13 in Coventry's favour, but only 1 on target. And the 500 passes up in the wintry weather. You can sum the game up if you want, Craig, but we've all watched hundreds of football matches. It's only ever going to be remembered for one thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and rightly so. So we'll just, as I said earlier, about just chalking it off as another 3 points, 2 home games in the week, 2 home wins in the week. Get your feet up for the next 7 days, and then look forward to Christmas. But as you rightly say, it's rightly going to be remembered for one thing.
Joe?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a brilliant sort of professional performance as well, where because there was a few people around me when the goal went in at the end who were like, oh, you need to focus, bloody blah. And almost like when the game ended, they like walked out annoyed, it felt like, at the game. I'm like, we've just beaten a good side here. Like, I think McKenna made reference to it in his post-match comments as well. These aren't just regulation victories, just because we're on a fantastic run that we want to continue for as long as it can. Coventry, a good side, coming down here on the back of good form, and we're sort of beating them relatively easily, I'd say. I don't think it was our toughest game of the season. I thought we played the game pretty well from start to finish, and that's a fantastic result. It's a brilliant result to get the win there. And people, so I'm not trying to sort of tell people what to think, but we do need to remember that these aren't poor teams coming down here. This isn't Forest Green and Morecambe and Accrington and teams like that coming here. These are good sides with.
This is a championship playoff finalist, Joe.
Yeah, 20 million's worth of players in the squad, and a real good team with a good manager, set up well, and we've done really well with that win. And I say we just got to remember how fantastic we're doing, and it is just unbelievable. That's sort of the word to describe this season so far, isn't it?
Unbelievable. We are going to move on to talk a bit about the championship, excuse me, and then we'll go to Q&A, and we're going to talk about either the week from hell or potentially the week from heaven, especially how it might end. But first, let's hear from our sponsors at Innovation Labs.
Innovation Labs is business hub and co-working space with strategic locations across Suffolk. Our aim is to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, business growth, and the development of an AI centre of excellence in Suffolk. Monthly hot desks are available from just £79. For more info, head to innovationlabsgroup.com or contact info@innovationlabsgroup.com. Innovation Labs, providing support for businesses across Suffolk. Locations in Stowmarket, Ipswich, Sudbury, Woodbridge, with more to follow.
ITFC women rescued a late 2-2 draw in Richard's words, an obstinate Billericay. Natasha Thomas with the goal deep into second half. Stoppage time after Bonnie Horwood's first half opener had been cancelled out. Championship Lewis are the visitors at the AGL next Sunday for the Women's FA Cup third round. I'm not wearing, Craig, my Wear the Sport t-shirt today. I'll be in trouble from Wear the Sport, but you've seen it before, my beautiful maroon Rusa Premiership t-shirt, and we're still in partnership with Wear the Sport. You can get 15% off there with promo code Blue Monday. You can also, ahead of Christmas, get 15% off and free shipping. Who doesn't like free at the Blue Monday merch store until midnight tonight? So move quickly, move as fast as... Who's our fastest player, Craig?
Caden Jackson. Get your ice skates on.
move as fast as Caden Jackson in ice
In
skates.
ice skates, yeah.
That
Downhill.
That's tremendous. That is very, very fast. I'm going to move very fast out of this link that I'm butchering, Craig, onto the championship results from the weekend. I'll just rattle through, and then, guys, if you want to pick out anything, get your questions ready for Q&A, chaps, in the chat. We'll go to that afterwards. Maybe hold them a minute or two. On Friday night, Preston 0, QPR 2. Is QPR not a pushover anymore? And the Willock Chair partnership might be back in business. West Brom 1, Leicester 2. I hope someone brings this up, because if Harry Winks doesn't score that late goal, we all know where we would have been in the table, and everything would look very different. Rather than us saying all 4 teams at the top are just bossing it, we'd be saying, oh, Leicester are wobbling, aren't we? But they won. Birmingham 0, Rotherham 0. Nathan Jones apparently is going to be named the Rotherham manager in the next couple of days. He was in presence. And poor old Wesley Hoyt. He didn't even score the best goal by a Wesley in the championship yesterday, and he scored from the halfway line for Watford at Hull. Leeds 3, Middlesbrough 2. The Leeds front 4, talking about goal contributions, Joe, have 44 between them. So, yes, I think we were right about them when we played them in September. Millwall 1, Sunderland 1 makes our result on Wednesday look all the more shiny. Plymouth 2, Stoke 1, down in the bottom 6. Sheffield Wednesday 3, Blackburn 1, another goal for Smodic. Southampton 2, Cardiff 0, Saints 10, 11 actually now, undefeated. Swansea 1, Huddersfield 1. And not sure whether I like this or not. Bristol City 1, Norwich 2, but they're kind of getting some jammy wins leading into Derby Day. Maybe lulling themselves and everyone into a false sense of confidence before that game. Anything to pick out there for you first, Craig?
Well, obviously the top 4 won again, and then related to that, I don't know if anyone's got a sense of deja vu, but does anyone remember being second in the league and the team that are top scoring last-minute winners to keep themselves at just ahead of us? Maybe not too long ago. So yeah, let's hope history isn't. Well, hopefully history is repeating. Actually,
I'll take it.
History does repeat itself. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's just nice to be in amongst those 3 parachute teams and still pushing on. So that's what's starting to look to my eye, especially after West Brom losing on Fridays. Those top 4 just seem to be pulling away just a touch, don't they?
What are your reflections from the weekend, Joe?
And sort of more probably a deeper thought with regards to it all. When you look at QPR, I watched the second half of their game on Friday night at Preston. I thought they were really good, and sort of watched the highlights and look back at the stats from Sheffield Wednesday against Blackburn. And it's two teams who have appointed sort of very, very highly rated coaches from big club backgrounds. And I think a lot of teams are following the Kieran McKenna lead that we've made effectively. So it's just that wonder of how important is promotion this season, because does it look like we've sort of got that first movers advantage on getting this coach in who is a serious professional working 20 hours a day? We had a message in the Telegram that McKenna I think they had the staff Christmas party last night, but he was still in his office or first thing this morning, working on the game after that. And he's just a pro coach. These guys that work hours, and I think Cifuentes and Danny Roller, similar guys to those. And it's just how important is it that we take advantage of what we've got here, because the revolution is coming, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good point, actually, Joe, because we've seen these cycles before of players all being brought in from Germany, and then, it's been sort of different territories where people have bought from. I thought there'd be a big one from Belgium after what Burnley and company did last year. But yeah, you make a fair point. Here, it just makes me laugh to look at it, is a ridiculous championship table. So Leicester City have 46 points, 4-6 from 19 games. We have 45 points from 19 games. The projection for Leicester is 111, and for us is 108, which would be a championship record if Leicester weren't going to get 111. But what is fascinating now is Leeds have now moved to the 2 points per game mark, projecting 92, which in any, quote, normal season gets you promoted. But as Craig says, we've got experience of abnormal seasons from last season. 96 points doesn't get you automatically promoted. Southampton look tidy, and just be interesting to see what that West Brom, they could have won that game. They were going for the win, weren't they, and got caught out. It'd be interesting to see how the Baggies do indeed bounce back. But absolutely fascinating at the top there, and just sensational points totals from getting on. If Southampton and Leeds win next week, I'll say sensational points totals from 4 separate teams, really putting the hammer down. Right, get your questions in via the chat. We'll do as many of them as we can, and then we'll have a little bit of a talk about Middlesbrough, but the guys will do that properly on Thursday. It'll be live, Rich and Seb, at the normal time. Let's get into some questions. Nice and quick, if you can, guys, and we can do as many of them as possible. Craig, Ashley, do you possibly see a rare Don Ball start on Saturday? I feel playing Taylor may leave us more open at the back.
Well, I think if it were to be that selection, then Ashley's point is probably valid, that it would be a solid, maybe more defensive choice. But I think at the moment, Don Ball's versatility on the bench is pretty valuable in terms of that he can play 2 or 3 positions and provide cover from there. And I think Taylor's earned the right to start in Luongo's absence, hasn't he, from his performances when he has played. So I think it will be Taylor, but I understand what Ashley's point would be if it were to be Don Ball, but I don't see it personally.
Can we just piggyback on that, Joe? I'm going to try and be very positive about Luongo not being available. He would have been rested for one of those games in the 3-game week anyway, wouldn't he? And it's almost like, well, okay, he's not going to be in the first game. Maybe you can pitch him straight. Is he out for 1 or 2 games?
Just the one game, yeah, just the one game.
Do you
I think it's frustrating.
Joe?
Yeah, he would have missed one of those next week, no doubt. But it's just frustrating because I think he'd have had a point to prove going back to Middlesbrough after they signed him last summer, and he didn't. I don't think he even kicked a ball for them in the league in his 6-month contract. So I think he'd have liked to have gone back up there and helped sort of proven a point against them. So he might have had that little extra tiny bit of motivation, which could have really sort of increased his already sort of consistently high performance level. That might just give him a little bit of an edge. So I'd have liked to have seen him there. But yeah, you guess he'll play against Watford on the sort of the midweek after that.
Joe, Steve, do you think the team's intelligence could be the difference between us and many others when it comes to the return fixtures? We'll have them sussed. Of course, that works in reverse as well, Joe, because I would suggest we're the team that benefits most from pattern of play when you look at the quality. We're up against 3-year 1 parachute teams. So that's going to be a real big factor that there's now lots of information on us going into the second. Sorry to flip Steve's question around, but there's 2 sides to that, isn't there?
Yes, there is. But we seem to, I don't know, we do make quite a lot of sort of little minor changes to things throughout the season. And then when you look sort of at the end of the season to the start of the season, while it looks like it's been sort of gradual change, it becomes quite a big change in how we play in those periods. So we'll be constantly tweaking. After the Millwall game, Connor Chaplin was man of the match, came up to the Bobby Robson suite afterwards, and they said, "Oh, how was the international break?" And he said, "Oh, well, we'd sort of looked at some of the videos back and we realised our counter pressing hasn't exactly been where we want it to be. So we've done a lot of work on counter pressing through that international break, and for the Millwall game, there's a couple of goals come straight from that. So we're constantly reinventing and redoing what we do. So whilst teams will know us a bit more, no one last season was able to work us out, were they? And I know it's a better quality of player and better quality of coach, but ultimately we need to. We'll need a smaller points haul in the second half of the season than the first half, really, won't we, to get promotion?
If I can take this one from Norman, what impact will the AFCON and Asia Cup have on Leicester, Leeds and Southampton squads? I don't think very much, to be honest. I don't know if you guys are going to disagree with me. Leeds, it's all about Somerville and Pirou, Rutter and Dan James. None of them are going anywhere. Leicester, they'll miss Wilfred and Didi, who's very good as one of those high number 8s. Again, Southampton key players. I mean, the guy Suleiman is a good player, but he's hardly been, their number 1 guy. I just personally, and feel free to debate it in the chat, I don't think, given their squad strengths, it weakens them massively. Will there ever be a boy born who will score a better goal than Wesley Burns? Maybe not. Neil, Craig, will we see more of Tuanzebe now with Burgess going away in January? Or more specifically, how much in the, what am I calling, the Furious Five as the back end of the Hateful Eight? How much are we going to see in the 3-game week?
I think they'll probably treat him a little bit with kid gloves as they have done up to now, really, in terms of dripping him in and then taking him out. A bit like Luongo next week. He, as you were saying about him missing, being rested for one of those games at least, they'll do similar with Tuanzebe for 2 reasons. One, because he's only getting back to fitness himself, really full fitness, hence why he was rested yesterday. And also, we can't afford for him to get injured between now and January, because then we will be.
Craig, do you think he might fancy him against big Rajovic, the Watford striker? Do you know what I mean? A physical 1v1.
Yeah, very possible. But then we've also brought in Edmondson for a physical battle as well. But what I would say about Tuanzebe is he strolled through that Millwall game midweek. He looked good. And if he's not yet up to speed, and he looked that good that day.
They were pretty blunt.
They were. I think a lot of it was down to him as well. He was quick. He was quick. He was strong. He was good on the ball. So yeah, hopefully. I think we'll. Going back to Neil's point, I think we'll just see him in and out. I just wonder whether Burgess might play a bit more, because we know we're not going to be able to use him in January. So
that's a fair point.
Let Australia deal with the outcome.
Do we reckon there's any chance that Burgess and Luongo don't want to go away with Australia in January for the Cup because of the position we're in with the league, the position they are in the squad? Because there's a very real chance that Burgess goes away for a month and Wolfenden and Tuanzebe play as a sort of centre-back pairing, and Burgess can't get back in the team when he gets back from that, which is sort of a big risk to take, isn't it? Because, like I said, Burgess has been fantastic and he's a deserved starter. But if you have, I think, like Wolfenden's been as good as him on the other side, and it's just, if Tuanzebe comes in and is this sort of unicorn in this league, then you're not going to be able to get him out of the team. And it's fine having 3 fantastic centre backs. I don't think George Edmondson's of the same level as Wolfenden and Burgess have been for us, and what we hope Tuanzebe can be. But you don't really want to be the third man in that situation, do you? And not playing.
A lot of players, though, Joe, say it's like that's their pinnacle, though, playing for their country. And if they've got that attitude, then there's no debate. You're not going to hang around and play in the Championship for a month. You're going to go off and try and do something with your country, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's the problem. You've got effectively now with the 48 team World Cups, Australia. Well, they qualify anyway for these World Cups, but it's a chance for Burgess to go to a World Cup in 2026, isn't it?
Yeah. Craig, Skip, given his lack of minutes lately, do you think maybe a deal is done for a striker and Ladapo will be on his way in January?
I think, again, I was talking about this last night to some mates. I think the second part of that question is probably true, and Ladapo could well be on his way in January, because he's not currently getting a sniff off the bench, is he? Scarlett's been coming on for Hurst recently. Jackson came on yesterday to help with the press in Hurst's place yesterday. So it's difficult to see where Ladapo fits currently in terms of that style of play. You know, he's done his job for us when he's been here, and he hasn't let us down, etc. But whether a deal has been done for another striker, I don't know whether that sort of thing happens this far out from the January transfer window, does it? But I would have thought, in terms of the second part, I think you probably will see Ladapo move on in January, because I think Joe said before on previous pods, he will do a job for somebody either in the lower part of the Championship or certainly in the top 3 or 4 or 5 of League One. And you'll get a fee for him, you'd hope, as well, nominal.
And he's over 30, isn't he? So it's a good chance to get a fee for a player, which you maybe wouldn't expect to.
I've got 3 questions in here from Marty and our own Rich, and a comment from Ben about the atmosphere, Joe, which is sort of coming up. What's your take on this? Because I don't really want to whine about anything at the moment, because it's been so bad for 15 years or whatever, and so brilliant for the last couple of years. I guess I understand. Look, for a start, it's blooming cold, and maybe the atmosphere always drops off a bit when it's blooming cold. you can't blame people when a team consistently, well, we won 9 out of 10 home games, consistently
17 out of
wins.
18.
17 out of 18, is it really? Christ.
60
Okay.
goals in that time.
I don't know
Okay.
if Leeds, by the way, are the team that beat us in that run. I don't know if you knew that. But
I was there, Craig. I was there. I do remember that. They mentioned it. But yeah, Joe, you can't blame people when your expectations slightly shift for, changing their outlook a little bit. And I'm one of the people that does agree that the acoustics of the ground changed for good, really, when they built up the two end stands, didn't they? So what was your take on this atmosphere debate?
I didn't think the atmosphere was that bad yesterday. I thought it was fine. It was not like a raucous atmosphere, but I thought Chris Rand has mentioned there about the Coventry away fans. I thought they were fantastic as away from. They were really noisy. I did think to myself, I need to remember this when I do the TWTD end of season questionnaire. Best away fans come to Portman Road, because they're going to take some beating. But no, I thought it was fine. But it's difficult to get up for it when you're 2-0 up at half time. It's absolutely freezing. It was sort of horrible yesterday, wasn't it? It was cold, it was misty, and there wasn't a huge amount happening because we were shutting the game down, and it's hard to sort of get behind shutting the game down, isn't it? Like sort of noisily get behind just shutting the game down, which is what we were trying to do. But I didn't think there was any sort of moaning or sort of the Suffolk groan sort of that going around the ground. I thought it was just a decent atmosphere. It was fine, and we went from there. I could hear the guys down in blue action from my seat at the back of the south stand. So no, I think it's maybe a mountain out of a molehill, maybe sometimes. But as long as the crowd stay with the team, they certainly are doing that.
Yeah, I think Ben. Sorry, Ben. Just to your point in terms of the stands, etc. The location of the away fans, it doesn't help because I sit directly opposite the away fans, directly opposite, and I hear them. And I can also hear the North Stand. I can hear blue action. And at times, you've got the away fans singing football in the library, blah, 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 at the same time as the North Stand are singing and blue action are singing. So I can hear us singing while the away fans are shouting at us for not singing. So it's acoustics. It's just terrible in there at the moment.
I was going to make exactly the same point. I went with a couple of my Watford mates last season and sat in there like singing bit. And one of my Sheffield United mates was in the other end. There was Watford Sheffield United, as you can imagine. And exactly what you said, Craig. The Sheffield United mate told me it was a bit quiet, wasn't it? Couldn't really hear the Watford fans. And the Watford fans are saying, these Blades fans were a bit quiet, weren't they? But a good old following. And I think it's more what the players experience. But I'm sure we've all been to, I don't know, Millwall or whatever, where you just go there and you're like, it's just bloody loud wherever you sit. But right, let's do a couple more and then that will do us. I was going to put this one up. Adam, all this concern about the 3 relegated sides opening their checkbooks in January. Are they really going to improve their 11? I think we have far more scope to improve the individuals. Adam makes a fair point, Craig. But football clubs have been known to sign people specifically so other people can't sign them when they have more money, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. But the thing is, I suppose we won't be shopping in the same ponds. Can you shop in a pond? We won't be fishing in the same pond as those 3 will be, unfortunately. But it will just be an absolutely intriguing transfer window from our perspective because, again, I shouldn't just use Joe as my reference for the entire pod, but Joe's said before, will we ever have an opportunity and a chance like this again when we are in this position, hopefully still this far ahead of third come the 1st of January to take full advantage of it. So it'll be just interesting to know what deals we can get done just to elevate the quality all around that team. It's going to be fascinating.
Joe, I'm going to jump in again with more hyperbole and agree with Craig. I'm going with Wes Burns scored the best goal ever for Ipswich ever. And this transfer window is the chance of a bloody generation. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. I just think it is the point I was making. Just to come back on what Craig was saying. I just remember Bournemouth a couple of years ago. They were a year 2 parachute team. And they just bought everybody. And Shrieky Dembele, Kiefer Moore, Was that when they bought Joe Rothwell, or was it in the? They took one of the lads from Liverpool on loan. I think they even bought a spare keeper and didn't even play him. Literally just stopped everybody buying anybody else, and then Nottingham Forest couldn't overtake them in the end. That was kind of the thing I was alluding to, and that was with a year 2 parachute budget, not a year 1, Joe.
Yeah, there's obviously a risk that happens, but I'd imagine the other 3 teams in the top 4 are probably more concerned about losing players and bringing them in at the moment, because someone like Kieran Dewsbury Hall, for example, who's been fantastic, he's a player that a lot of Premier League clubs are going to be looking at, and if a big team goes in for him, I know they probably won't want to accept it, but this does come a time where the players want the move, effectively, doesn't it? So there's going to be a lot of Premier League interest in players like your Dewsbury Halls, people in the Southampton squad who have got Premier League experience, and people in the Leeds squad who've got that Premier League experience, and they're sort of going up. Even someone, I know they've only just signed it, but someone like Ethan Ampadu has been fantastic this season for Leeds. And does someone just say, look, we're going to triple what you paid for him in August and try and get him away from there? So there's a chance on that. But I think, like I say, I think we've got to go for it. And I wonder whether it's sort of Ipswich fans, sort of we look at ourselves and maybe as a club more than anyone else, because you look at when our last 2 promotions in 2000, it wasn't obviously January transfer window, but we went out and signed Marcus Stewart sort of late on in the season and he helped us get over the line, and Martin Royce as well, didn't we? We sort of signed those 2 to really improve us from a position of strength to even more strength. And then we've had windows like 2014, 15 where we were flying. We didn't strengthen the squad and eventually fell back. And then last year we signed obviously Broadhead, Hurst, Clark and Luongo, and they gave us that extra push over the line. So you'd imagine now this ownership group and this CEO and this manager, they've only done it that one way, where you've had a big push in January. So I wouldn't be surprised by anything in January. If we break our transfer record in the first week of the window, I wouldn't be surprised.
I like those 2 comparisons Joe just made. It's far more a year 2000 than a last season. I feel like last season they turned a good team into a promotion team in January, didn't they? Whereas in 2000, they turned a team that was, already very good but couldn't quite get over the line. Just supplemented it, didn't they?
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to know what positions. Interesting to find out what positions we end up improving on, because we, as you said about concentrating on your own team there, Ben, we're all pretty much emotionally wedded to this team now, aren't we, by virtue of what's happened over the last year or so. And it'll just be both sad
Craig, every week, sorry to interrupt, Craig, every week someone says so-and-so is the most important player in the team now. I've now heard it for all 11 players, and that's in our chat. And I'm not calling our chat ignorant for saying that. That's how wedded we are to these players in each team.
Absolutely. And there's, as you say, there's new players coming up. Joe's latest love interest is the goalkeeper, who we didn't even have in the team in the middle of July. So it'd just be absolutely intriguing to see what happens, and who falls by the wayside, unfortunately.
I hope I've not come across as fickle about Broadhead. I'm still only got eyes for him and defend him every week in the face of this malicious criticism that he's less than perfect now. But there we go. Right, speaking of less than perfect, the fixtures, Joe, next week are less than perfect. As I said, Rich and Seb are going to be focusing specifically on the Middlesbrough game. But just take me through this week, because this is, as I said, potentially the week from hell if things go badly. But you know what this team's like. So it's Middlesbrough away on Saturday, then Watford on the Tuesday away as well. Watford just moved up into the top 10. I think Middlesbrough have been in good form, but I think they've lost 2 from 3, if memory. So lost at Plymouth, didn't they? And actually, in fact, conceding a lot of goals as well, Joe. And then just you can't treat the Norwich game like any other game, can you? Just because of the emotions that surround it. What are your feelings going into this week? And then we'll hone in on the Borough game.
It's interesting on the Borough game, because you hear I haven't followed it closely or done any sort of research into them, but you see a lot of their fans talking about how they've got 10 players out. They've got a whole team of players out for this. And I think they're sort of saying, no, we've got no fit defenders. We're playing the top scoring team
Bangura got
in the league.
red-carded yesterday, the fullback as well, didn't he?
Yeah, so it may be a good time to play Middlesbrough. Watford away will be tough, but we can go there and win. We're probably a better organised side than they are now. They just have a bit of quality in it. Then the Norwich game. It sounds strange, but I'm not particularly nervous for the Norwich game, because we're better than them. We're better than them in every facet of the game, aren't we? And if we play to our ability levels, we'll win the game. So it's been probably a long time that we've gone into the derby where it's not even at best maybe been a coin flip. We are significantly the better side in this, and they sort of come in. They're coming up with some sort of decent results, but the performance has been terrible. Like the QPR was, they beat them, but they were awful. I think they had one shot. They beat Bristol City today, but I think they were only good sort of about 10, 15 minutes there. So it's just one of those where we've just got to play. Like I say, I'm sure McKenna will be treating it as like any other game. We'll be doing our research. We'll be prepared. We'll be going into that. And like I say, it's just, it could be a brilliant week. It could be another week reminiscent of the Barnsley, Exeter, Peterborough week that we had last year. So hopefully we go into it. This team hasn't let us down so far, has it?
How are you kind of viewing the? I know it's, as I found to my cost on the Fan Hub app, Craig, it's impossible to second guess exactly what McKenna's going to do. But how do you kind of view the block of three when you're travelling? I know it's not a massive journey to Watford, is it? And you know, you got your 2 away games first. You wouldn't necessarily want it that way round, would you?
No, I'd imagine they'll fly up to Borough as well, don't they? And maybe coach back's what they tend to do. I think Broadhead will probably might miss out on one of them as well. If you bring in your friend Marcus Harness for one of them, Ben, just again to save his leagues. He doesn't tend to play 3-game weeks, does he? Interesting. I've just quickly looked up Leeds' similar fixtures for next week, and they've got Blackburn and Sunderland away, both away. So
interesting.
Yeah, that Sunderland Leeds match could be a bit of a ding dong, couldn't it? And Blackburn, you don't know what you're going to get, do you, from those from 1 week to the next. So yeah, whatever we can pick up from those games. And Mick Mills was talking about it. I think Graham Mack was having a chat with him after the match, just asking them what would be a good points haul from it. And I think they both said draws. You know, 2 draws would be fine. But as we know, you might as well win one and lose one, mightn't you, rather than take 2 draws. I think that's pretty. Well, I think if we can win one of those 2 games, I think I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have all of these debates of, oh, you lose the first 2, but you beat Norwich, and everyone will be happy with that. But Joe, as we've said a few times, there's bigger things at play this season than local rivalries, however important that kind of tribal sort of rivalry is. So Joe, just get down to brass tacks with this. We know Williams is not going to be around, and we know Luongo is not going to be around. So how does your 11 for Middlesbrough look like?
I think you probably keep as much as what it was yesterday, the starting 11 yesterday, apart from obviously Massimo drops out, and you'd imagine it's going to be Jack Taylor. He seems the next cab on the rank in that position coming in for him. So you'd imagine McKenna, we tend to, when we have the 3-game weeks, it tends to be the middle game where we make a couple of changes in, as opposed to the Saturday will be normal. And you'd imagine there's probably maybe 2, 3, 4 changes for the Watford game after that. But yeah, that'd be what I'd expect to see.
Centre half, Joe?
I'd stick with Wolfie and Burgess. For me, it isn't broke. And then Tuanzebe plays the midweek game, and then maybe from after the Norwich game, he's then probably in and fit at that point then, isn't he? So I'd go Wolfie and Burgess there, I think, if it ain't broke.
Who starts all 3 games? Craig, Flagkey, Davis, Morsey, Hurst?
Yeah, I think so. Burns. Yeah.
Interesting. It's going to be fascinating. I'm getting nervous already thinking about it. But let's end this podcast the way we started it. Just this weekend is going to be remembered for the goal by Wes Burns, and in a season and a kind of year, 18 months of lots of brilliant things happening. Let's just get your final takes on potentially the best goal most of our fans have ever seen, certainly at Portman Road, Joe.
Take a bow, Wes Burns, isn't it? That's all you need to say. And it's not just the finish; it's everything about the goal from back to front, isn't it? What a goal! What a signing Wes Burns has been for us, from probably one of the least heralded of the first summer signings, and he's been fantastic.
Wasn't he the first?
I think he was the very first, and I think he was one that maybe probably one coming with I wouldn't say the worst playing background, but one who's sort of playing like lower level in League One as opposed to pulling players down. And yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic, so integral to how we play, and it's a goal that will be the highlights, the first on the highlights reel when we show his Ipswich Town career, isn't it? And it's been a fantastic career so far, and long may it continue.
Craig, hopefully one day we'll be talking to Wes Burns on this podcast, and we'll be saying, what about that goal, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And as Joe said then, as we were talking about before we started off, that the fact that he as a player has managed to step up and continues to excel and get better, and as we were just saying there, we presume that he'll play all 3 games next week because of his value and continued value to the team, not necessarily just in terms of the goals that he's scoring and the assists, but his work rate and how he helps out the team as a whole and the team shape. And just a quick one before we go, on a related note, actually, right wingers who scored thronkers. If everyone could raise a glass to Steve Whitten, it's his birthday tomorrow.
We're just seeing the greatest goal ever at Portman Road, and Craig wants to close out talking about Steve Whitten. It's perfect, Craig, isn't it? We absolutely love it. We absolutely have loved chatting to you tonight. If you're watching right now, thank you so much. Hit the like button before you go. Give us a 5-star review on the audio. We'll be back on Thursday night with the full preview for the Middlesbrough game, where Rich and Seb will go into far more detail than we have on the weekend that we saw. In my humble, not so humble opinion, possibly, maybe the greatest goal at Portman Road, the greatest Ipswich Town goal ever. I'm going to steal Joe's phrase there. Take a bow, Wes Burns. Thank you for watching the Blue Monday podcast.